Welcome to Titan Upload, first ever episode or whatever you want to call it on the new YouTube channel. Hoping to bring you more insight on Titans and Titans news and discussions on the different topics. I just don't have a lot of national media attention in front of me that I can always go to for Titans news, so we go more local. So local-wise, I think they do a really good job. Whether it be 104.5 The Zone or 102.5 The Game, A to Z Sports, Buck Rising, enjoy his work, Jared Stillman, Paul Kaharski, just to name a few. So I'll always give those guys credit because they work really hard at their craft. I'm not here to steal their stuff. I'm just here to take what they say and then discuss how we feel about that or how I feel about it specifically. And some things came up this week where I'm like, I got to start my channel because I have no one to vent to. And so that's why we're here. And then feel free to subscribe below here, do whatever you got to do. And so you can just continue to join me along this journey. I think we're going to have a good year this year. I really do.
Still looking at me.
So this is basically what got me heated the other day coming home from work. So it was the first day of OTAs. And just get out of work or whatever and turn on my SoundCloud. I love the on-demand thing, the features. So I turn on Jared and the GM. Part of the problem and why I'm doing this, it's like I never am able to catch up with what happened, so I can never call in. So I'm always behind. And by the time I have all these great takes, I never can comment on them because I'm an hour behind or 2 hours behind or whatnot. So basically, Jared went to OTAs and he was telling Floyd about what he witnessed there, what he observed. And one of the things he mentioned, which kind of caught him off guard, was he did not see that growth that he thought he was going to see with Marcus. Year 5, he thought he'd come into this first OTA throwing the ball a little bit better. He kind of mentioned he's behind on some of his throws, overthrew some of the guys, just late, hitting receivers out of their breaks and stuff like that. And that was pretty much it. I mean, it wasn't a whole lot. He said it's the first OTA. Just kind of caught him off guard a little bit. Then he throws in a nugget, right? Getting everything going. He says, Ryan Tannehill, he threw the ball actually pretty well. I liked some of his deep throws and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, who's going to think much of those things? I didn't. I just came home, no big deal. So I'm checking my Twitter, just unwinding. And the media can show you, obviously. I would put them up. I'm not sure about copyright and stuff as I'm just starting out here. But the media basically can show you a couple clips from the practice, with the open session. And they were showing, the one in particular, he was talking about this guy that I'm going to talk about here in a minute. Marcus was rolling to his left. The coach was standing there towards the sideline. As Marcus is rolling to the left, the coach takes 2 little steps to the sideline, and Marcus hit him on the hands. It was a good throw. It's nice mobility, getting outside of the pocket. I don't know how much you want to break that down. No receiver. It was a coach. Nobody running after him. It was against air. I mean, it's OTAs. I get that, but it's a throw. Look good. So this guy on Twitter who's like 5,000 followers, who I'm going to show you here in a minute, who I reply to, he gets on there and basically says, Marcus is throwing the ball great. Marcus looks to be healthy again. It's all positive vibes coming from the Marcus train, right? This guy's very pro Marcus, and that's fine. I'm like, hey, were you there? Were you there to see the practice? And I know he wasn't, but just to kind of get it going, were you there? And then I put what I, basically what Jared said, right? Said, I know a guy who was there. Wasn't a lie, right? He was there, and I don't really know him, but I listened to him on the radio. But basically said, he overthrew some guys. He was late on some of his throws, missed some of the deep balls. I basically left it at that. And boy, did it get the pots. I mean, you got a guy that comes on there afterwards. Thanks to Buck Rising. He's not going to listen to this, but Buck Rising. I wasn't even really talking about Buck Rising at all. I didn't even heard his comments on OTAs, and Buck Rising, like, I'll stand up and say, you know what, I witnessed the same thing as what I was mentioning. So that was a really cool thing to see, because that kind of changed a little bit of. They started going after Buck Rising a little bit there. But one guy gets on there and goes, who's stirring this pot? I'm like, stir no pot, It's like, all I'm saying is, you got a guy who's very pro Marcus, making him into this, this bigger than what he was. And it's the first OTA. So I wouldn't even get worked up about it. But if you're going around after the first OTA and saying, hey, he's back, he's fully healthy, and he's throwing the ball great, and he's doing all these things, you're just leading us down the road of disappointment. Because if he's not throwing the ball great, I know the Titans don't have to tell us anything. They basically tell probably Jim White what he can and can't say, too. I love Jim White, by the way, too. But we just have to keep that in mind. Like, it's going to take time. But if you're telling everybody and you're getting everybody worked up about how great he is already, I mean, the poor guy's not even going to make it out of, preseason without people getting all fired up. And because they really defend this guy. I mean, you should see all the comments coming in defending this Titans news guy, this Titans films guy that I'm talking about here. As you could have saw him on the screen as I replied, and I didn't want to put his tweet on there without, again, copyright stuff, whatever, but I didn't want to throw his stuff on there. But you definitely go back and look. And if I give him followers, good. I don't have a problem with them. But like I said, I love to have open discussion about things. So, but that's that. Nothing more to it than that. Just got me a little fired up. I think the big deal for us is we're good. Okay? With this whole Ignite the Fire thing back again for season 2 for the Titans. The first episode dropped, and we wanted to go good to great. I mean, that is the main message. Vrabel says it over and over. I believe the number 1 draft pick, when they call Mr. Simmons and they say, how are you doing? I think he says good. And they said, no, you should be great or whatever. So I know the message. But if we think we're going to get to great without quarterback play, we're not. And I know it's Derek's team. It's going to be Derek's team, maybe how Eddie George was back in the day. But we're going to need Marcus to step up. And we're going to need him to be accurate. We're going to need him to be consistent. And we're going to need him to play a full season. Okay? I'm not talking about getting banged up here or there and, coming out to finish the game. I mean, legitimately finish the season. Jake Locker was never that accurate, but he was 3-1 when he basically, oh my goodness, what a terrible injury he suffered in that game against the Jets. We were 3-1 after that game. I thought we were playing very well. And so it's time to move on, I know. But I did want to bring this up because it's like a taboo thing or something. Ryan Tannehill, right? Say it with me. Ryan Tannehill. He's our backup. He's going to be a backup. Floyd Reese said, basically, he was going back in the day when we got Neil O'Donnell in like 99. McNair missed like 7 games or whatever till end of October after the injury he suffered. I want to say in week 2, or was that the end of week 1 into week 2? I don't know. I can't remember back that far. But what I would say is the Titans. Jared basically asked him, if the Titans were 8-1, would you have kept Neil in there? And the GM said, no, I would have put Steve back out there. But what happens if that is this year? What happens if Marcus does go down? not trying to hate, not trying to, do any disrespect here, but let's just hypothetically say what happened last year happens this year against Miami. Same thing against Cleveland, week 1 here. And Marcus goes down. In comes Tannehill. We've never had this quality of a backup quarterback before, realistically, right? So Tannehill, he comes in. Let's say they're 6-2. We're playing well. The defense is playing well. Derrick Henry's playing well. A.J. Brown's playing well. Delaney Walker's still hanging in there. Things are good. We're 6-2. Marcus is back. You throwing Marcus out there? You throw him back out there? That's the question I want to hear. That's what the comments I want to hear. Because you got to put your opinion to it. And you got to do that. So, because I want to hear about that. Because this is getting into a big thing. And Vrabel said numerous times, Marcus is our guy. So if that's the statement, Marcus gets hurt week 1, and we go down this road, are you throwing him back out there? If I've painted the scenario, we're 6-2, we're playing very well. I personally, if Tannehill's playing great, Tannehill's in the same position as Marcus. Same position. Drafted to be a franchise quarterback for Miami. Has had some good seasons here or there. I believe he's taken Miami to the playoffs. He may not have won a game, but he's taken Miami to the playoffs. Tannehill can't stay on the field. He's the same thing that we're going with Marcus. So I personally think this. J-Rob feels I got 2 quarterbacks who can be very talented but can't finish a season. So why can't Marcus play in 10 games? Tannehill playing 6. Reevaluate the situation. Hopefully we're in the playoffs. I mean, is that not why he brought him in? Can you answer me the question, why would you give a 4th-round pick next year, I know, to bring in Tannehill? What other reason? Because you've already stated you didn't bring him in to compete. I mean, we don't want anybody to compete with Marcus. I think with Marcus being on 1 year in his deal, he should have to compete. That's what I feel. You expect everybody else to do it. You expect the new rookie right guard to compete. Why are we under this where we can't have an open competition? I just don't understand it. I don't. You'll never get that point across to me. So I'm going to put up some overlays right here. And this is the final thing I wanted to do, is to look at the different quarterbacks, A through E, and just look at the stats. I'm not going to read them to you. I know stats aren't everything. For the most part, there's a lot of things that go into that. Like, I really liked Tim Tebow's quarterback, and his stats were awful, but he won games, and that was important. Vince Young, his stats weren't amazing, I think, in his rookie year, but he won games, which is great. So I want to give Mariota the benefit of the doubt here, because he does a lot of the extra stuff. Find that interesting when you're trying to pay Mariota over $100 million for maybe the franchise quarterback. When you kind of compare it to these other players, it's hard to argue that it's good enough right now, and that's why this season is going to be so important. So, like I said, I'm high on him. I feel like he picked 2 for a reason, but he needs to show it and he needs to stay healthy. And I think J-Rob has done everything possible to make that happen. But J-Rob also knows, hey, if he can't make it work, then Tannehill's our best second option for the 2019 season. So please subscribe, like. I'll be back next week with the Amazon. Pretty excited about that one. And then pretty much Titans from here on out. So tighten up, and thanks again for watching.